we're talking today specifically about using Instagram and using it to sell to your clients, which I know can always seem like icky to like sell to people, but you've got some really great tips of doing it authentically and in a good way to convert, because otherwise, what's the point in like being on Instagram as a business, right?
Yeah, I know.
Hey, it's Emily with Wildleaf Collab. These expert interviews are just real people, real conversations with expert advice. So sit back, grab your notebook, a cup of coffee, and listen to what they have to say. And don't forget to click subscribe so that you can stay tuned every time we have a new expert on the show. Welcome to this very special episode of The Wildleaf Show. If you guys have been following along, you know that I'm doing a new series with experts and industry leaders about what we wished we'd known when we started our businesses, and they're coming on and sharing that great knowledge with you. Today, I am joined by the very talented henna artist and entrepreneur, I love that is her word, entrepreneur Nadine. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I am super, super excited.
Now, you are the owner of the Henna Project, and I can't wait for you to tell us more about that. But we're going to be talking about today, and I think this is a really great one. You and I were talking a little bit before we jumped on about how I've covered like social media in general, like a broad spectrum social media, but we're talking today specifically about using Instagram and using it to sell to your clients, which I know can always seem like icky to like sell to people, but you've got some really great tips of doing it authentically and in a good way to convert, because otherwise, what's the point in like being on Instagram as a business, right?
Yeah, I know.
So welcome on. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about you and your business journey, and then we will get into all the goods too.
Sure. Well, you put it so eloquently. So basically, I started into henna about four and a half years ago. It started out as a hobby. It's really funny because I was on this soul search trip with, my aunt and my mom and uncle. And I didn't really think much about it. But I remember being approached by these amazing Moroccan women who were doing henna, and there were henna patterns all over. And I was just so mesmerized by the whole thing. And then my aunt actually used to do henna back in the day. She's like a retired artist right now. And she sort of like played or incepted that idea in my head. And when I went back home, it just like really resonated with me. I'm like, you know what, maybe I'm going to start doing this. And
I love that. So
yeah.
Thanks to aunt for leading you there, right?
Oh yeah. So, YouTube and Google became my best friends. I just avidly, searched everything I can get my hands on pertaining to henna. Yeah. And I was horrible at it. Like if you see what my designs look like, you would be appalled.
Oh, I would not guess that now. If you guys check out her website now, like, oh my, it's mesmerizing and beautiful.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. But yeah, so ever since, it's just been, a lot of hustling, a lot of hard work, a lot of practice. I've attended many henna conferences, and I didn't even know that those existed. It's like there's a whole community out there. I'm like, what?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So basically that's how my henna journey started. But I actually, initially I was a graphic designer by trade. So I did work as a graphic designer for many, many years for a software company. But then, it just kept creeping up at me that this is not my passion. This is not what I really want to do. And, the whole reason I got into graphic design was because I figured it's the closest thing to being artistic, where, I'm not struggling for money and I'm not subscribing to the starving artist.
You and me both, because I'm a graphic designer too, and it's like you can be an artist but also have the corporate salary. So exactly. I totally get it, because I did the same thing.
Exactly. So we're like two peas in a pod. Yep.
Yeah.
But then it felt like it wasn't me. It wasn't home, right? Yeah. So I just up and quit my job on complete impulse. And that was a big mistake. That I will definitely talk about later on. But then I just quit on an impulse. And then I decided to go full force into henna. And this is how, I grew it to what it is today. And I became so much more intentional with Instagram. And here I am.
Right. You survived it. Even if you think it was a mistake, you survived it. You're on the other side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully. Those were not pretty days to go by, but they're really necessary though. Like that struggle, it really pushes you to become a better version of yourself.
I totally agree. I think, and not that that has to be everybody's path, but I think for a lot of
Exactly.
people, it's like, it's the push we needed because I kind of did the same thing. I was just thrown into making it full time.
Exactly.
And I think that that's really, finally, it's like do or die. Like, I got to make this work.
Exactly. It's like a sink or swim situation.
Yep.
If you don't help yourself, you're going to drown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm interested to know more about why you thought that was a mistake. So we'll kind of jump into the topic then about, so like when you and I connected, you had mentioned that you really wanted to share with new business owners how to sell or land clients through
Yeah.
Instagram. So what do you wish that you'd known about that you can share with new business owners or people who are still side hustling that you wish you'd known in regards to using Instagram to get clients?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. The one thing that I wish I would have known back then are, let's see, three things. First off is that you have to put in time in your education. And I'm not talking, putting dollars down and attending a course or doing a certificate or anything like that, but something as simple as listening to a podcast on your way to your job or, being subscribed to a newsletter that sends you tips and tricks on how to become a better business owner or how to use Instagram with intention. These are all little, or even YouTube, just like this. So if you're watching this, you're already ahead of the game. But yeah, just really put in time and devote effort in educating yourself because there is no cap to what you can learn, right? And your brain is a muscle that needs to be trained over and over and over again. So that's something I wish I definitely would have known back then. And I believe because of the struggle, because I was struggling, because we, my partner and I, we were in a financial crisis. You're like, okay, we kind of really have to do this and we have to do this right. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is don't treat Instagram as, an app to just scroll mindlessly through. Use it with intention. Be strategic about it. There are I think we're up to like 1 billion users on Instagram right now, which is crazy. And so if you're just mindless about it and if you're not intentional, if you're not strategic, then you're just meshing in with the crowd. You're not standing out. So that's another thing. And the final thing is have purpose, like create a community, right? Be social. I mean, Instagram is a social media app. The word social is in there. So if you're not social yourself, you're just throwing in your voice in the void because you're not active. I mean, really think about it. If you're in a networking event, or if you're at a party, or if you're at this event and you don't know anyone, you're not gonna stand out if you just sit quietly in the corner observing people from a distance. You're going to make an impact if you're out there and you're, introducing yourself, and if you're dancing, and if you're cracking jokes and, all that good stuff. That's how you set yourself apart from the crowd, is by being social.
Love that. That is such a great analogy. So I love the 3 points you brought up. I definitely want to touch on those more, but I love that analogy you made of, the intentional and social kind of go together. I think a lot of us, which, I have my own personal account on Instagram, like that really is just for me to mindlessly scroll. That's the point of that, right?
Fine. And that's totally fine. I mean, I have that too. I have a personal account and I have a business account. And for that, mindless scrolling, leave that to your personal stuff. But when it comes to business, I mean, strap yourself down. I devote 1 hour every single day just for engagement, just to interact with other people.
Yeah. And I think that that's a part that a lot of us miss or overlook. And it is very easy to get off track, even if you're on your business account, and to just start scrolling mindlessly and forget that you should be engaging too. So when you say engage, it's obviously more than just a double tap, right? So like what are some tips for engaging on Instagram as a business?
Yeah. Awesome question. So what I usually do is every single day, like I will devote 1 week for a specific hashtag that I know people I want to connect with are using. So let's say—
Love that. Great tip.
Yeah. So let's say, for example, I'm a henna artist. I do bridal hennas. I do henna for brides.
Yes.
And I want to connect more with people in the wedding industry. So I will look up a hashtag that is very specific to my city, to my niche. So maybe I'll use something like hashtag Toronto hairstylist, or hashtag Toronto Indian wedding, or hashtag Toronto insert whatever industry here. And I will go through that hashtag and I'll just interact with people, you know, comment on photos that I genuinely liked, asking questions, inviting people, you know, to invite you know, a conversation. So that's how I really do it. And it's amazing because for the days that I don't do it, I see a very big drip in my own engagement, like engagement on my own page. And so the more engaging you are, the more engagement you're inviting. And and it's not just through hashtags, it's not through comments, it's also through Insta stories. So when someone is asking a question on Insta story, or, you know, posted a poll, or even doing an Instagram live, be present, be, you know, just voice out your interaction, because it's going to get you noticed.
Love that. I think that's a great tip that you mentioned is choosing one hashtag a week and going from there, because it can be overwhelming. There's so much info out there about how to be engaged and like and comment and message, and that's just overwhelming. But I love how you're like, just pick one, focus on that, then move on to the next one, and then the next one. That's a great tip. I love that.
Absolutely. And you know, if you're on Instagram and you want to mindlessly scroll and you don't have the time to, you know, devote an hour a day for engagement like me, you can absolutely do that. I mean, Instagram just rolled out a feature where you can follow hashtags. So follow hashtags, and when you're mindlessly scrolling, when that hashtag comes up, just comment. Like, that's as passive as it can be.
Right.
It's really no effort.
Truly, yes. And you can check your insights on your own profile then and still track and see. Exactly. Which is a little bit more in depth, but I think some people are probably there and some aren't. So if you're there, start following the hashtags, interact, check your insights, see how it's going, and then, you know, repeat, basically. So the other thing that I love that you first mentioned was the educating yourself. And whether you said it was like YouTube or anywhere like that. So how can people find quality education for themselves? Like, where are they going to find that info? You know, like, obviously there's channels like mine where I'm interviewing experts like you, but like, if you're going to tell somebody you should really check out so-and-so, or you should do this, like, where would you go to point them in to find quality education and info?
Yeah. So, that's a good question. However, I do have to mention that people respond to education in different ways. So I'm very much a visual learner. So that's why I watch YouTube videos, or I buy courses online that have, you know, those pretty visual slides. But then again, you don't have to buy courses. There is a wealth of information out there that is ready for you. Okay. So it's really going to look different from person to person. But if you're a reader, look up, Google is your best friend. Just look up some articles. Like, for instance, when I first started out, the first thing I entered was, how can I sell on Instagram? And you'll find so many articles on Google. And the beauty of it is, you know, I know people have reservations on Facebook tracking your activities, but I think it's actually a good thing, because when Facebook tracks these things, ads pop up that is relevant to me. I'll find like these free workshops that I can attend, or a free online webinar that I can attend. And it's all because, you know, Facebook or Google has detected that these are the articles that I'm interested in. And so they keep popping up. So the more you put yourself out there and educating yourself, the more it's actually going to come to you automatically. And another thing that you can do, and I make sure that I do this at least once a month, is attend networking events. And there are free events out there. Like, just go through, what's it called? I don't know if it works on your side of the world, but go through like Groupon, go through, what's it called? Eventbrite. And they have like a bunch of free events that you can benefit from, and don't undermine that. These are very powerful things. I know it may not seem like the case when you go, but on the long run, like, the more you do it, the more information is going to be processed by you.
Absolutely. And I love, just, you know, pause for a moment. Anybody that's been following my channel for a while, like, here's another expert saying networking is important.
Yes.
So, like,
yes. Oh my God, yes.
How many people is it going to take for you to hear that networking is so important? Like, it's personally impacted my life. Obviously, it's impacted yours too. Like, networking people, networking.
Yeah. And I know it's squeamish. I mean, I'm one of those people. I'm like, I know it doesn't show, but I'm extremely introverted and I'm extremely shy. It takes a lot of courage for me to go up to a random stranger and starting up a conversation. But oh my God, like the more I attended these events, the more opportunities came my way. I mean, for example, I had just attended one of those networking events a while back, and about a year ago, and there was a writer there for the Toronto Star. And if you guys are not aware, the Toronto Star is like a huge publication here on this side of the world. And she published an article about me, and that got me clients. And so don't undermine how powerful these things are. They're really powerful, and it's your success is about your community. It's about, you know and who you trust, and because these are people that are going to vouch for you.
Yes. Oh, chills. Yes. I love that. And it's just, it really is true. And I know, like you said as well, like, I think people assume that I'm extroverted as well, but like, I'm also very equally okay being an introvert. However, I realized, and it is scary, those first few times I went to networking events, you kind of do just hang back a little bit and you're like, well, I'm just going to check it out. And that's fine. But at some point, you're going to have to get up. You're going to have to start shaking hands. You're going to have to start telling your story. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more confidence you get. And then pretty soon, Toronto Star's writing articles about you. So, and maybe not necessarily that extreme, but 100%, the more you start engaging with people at networking events, the more work is going to come your way. It's just, it's point proven time and again. It's what's going to happen.
So true.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like we've touched on some really great things. Is there anything where you're like, actually, I want to talk about, we have not talked about why you thought it was a mistake for you to up and quit. So I'm interested to know why you thought that was a mistake for you.
So, all right, I will give you the actual breakdown of what happened. So I just up and quit completely on an impulse. It wasn't really thought out. I didn't have, 3 months, at least 3 months savings. I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to quit. And if I go full force into doing this, opportunities are just going to automatically arise. And I was sorely mistaken. And the worst part was my partner lost his job. My partner got let go because his company went under. It went bankrupt. And it was like, all of a sudden we went from a 2 household income to a 1 household income. We're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So that's basically the mistake that I made, that I didn't plan ahead. I didn't have like enough savings that helped me, survive for those months that I was trying to build my business. So that's definitely something that I don't recommend anyone doing. And, I didn't have the knowledge back then that I did now, because I wasn't active in educating myself. If anything, I always shrugged on the fact of, networking event, whatever, I don't want to go. Or, if someone sent me an article, I wouldn't really take the time to read it. So my attitude, my mindset back then was drastically different than what it looks like today. But then again, not to say that that's going to be the case for anyone who's struggling, but I think the reason I have the mindset that I do right now was a result of the struggle that we had, was the result of that huge challenge that we had to, overclimb.
I think there really is truth to the statement of, great things are just on the other side of fear.
Yeah.
And I really think that is very true. Now, my situation was similar, but also slightly different than yours. I was let go from my job, but I did have the savings, and I had kind of had a stream of work coming towards me, but it was not enough. And that, I think, alone is the fear as well, to motivate people to dig in and really make it happen. I do want to say though, like, sometimes you just got to do it, because otherwise we're always going to think that we're not ready.
Yep. So true. And sometimes it depends on, different personalities, but some people may not move unless, something drastic happens. And then other people might be a little bit more comfortable when they have a cushion to fall back on. So I guess it depends from character to character, but it's always good to be prepared. It's always good to make a decision that's educated that's thought out and not an impulse the same way that I did.
I love that. That is great advice. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So is there anything, any kind of like, we're getting kind of close down to the wire here. Is there anything that you like, last closing thoughts where you're like, if nothing else, here's what I want you to know about using Instagram for your business?
Stop worrying about your followers. The number of followers do not matter, okay? I don't care if you have 1 follower or 100,000 followers. If your audience is not engaged, it doesn't mean squats. Be focused on your engagement. Be focused in creating a community out of your Instagram followers rather than being so obsessed on, let's get more followers. I want more followers. Give me a shout out, It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're not there for your audience if you don't show up, if you're not offering value to them. None of it matters. So so that's something that you should definitely take super seriously.
Thank you. I love that. Yes. If not, that was a great point to end on. Like, followers don't matter if they're not loyal to you, and they're going to become loyal and love you if you take care of them.
So true. So true.
Love it. Awesome. Okay. So tell people where they can find you so they can see how you're doing it on your side.
Yeah. So you can definitely come find me on my Instagram page at the Henna Project, or my website, thehennaproject.net.
Yep, and we'll make sure that that's in the description below, so you can go check her out there. You also have a freebie as well, and it is the foolproof guide for Instagram hashtags that gets you found.
Yep, so true. The thing is, a lot of people get this impression that you should use insanely popular hashtags when that is not the case, okay?
No, it's not. It's not. You're right.
So this guide really helps you narrow down which hashtags you should be using that helps you land clients.
Awesome. It's a great one. So definitely check that out. I've got the link in the description there as well. So great information. Thank you so much. I really hope, and I think that new business owners have a wealth of knowledge here. So listen to it again if you need to.
Thank you so much. And I am super honored to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for joining me today, Nadine. And until next time, we'll see you wild.